So first she applied the underwire on the side that attached the wing. So she stitches on the inner side of the underwire, but you have to make sure that it kind of lines up with where the seam allowance is. You follow the edge of the seam allowance. And so the stitch, this is the outer side, this is the inner side. The stitch is on the inner side, where if you flip it over, it's on the seam allowance, right? And then for usually it's 1/4 to 3/8 seam allowance. The bar is assembled with the gore and everything, and the next step is the underwire. So the underwire goes here. We already did this one. The casing basically have to sit, sit this way. So then you have to think about it, where to start. So then that means you have to, and then we have to cover this seam. So then you would go here and cover the seam, and that's how it lay. So then once you figure out that part, how the casing would sit and where the seam should be, you flip it open so you can make a decision that the stitching should start here. It has to start, we have to stitch down right here, and then when you flip over, it's on the inside of the bar, and we insert the casing. Usually we leave about 1/2 inch pass, because once we insert the underwire, we'll trim it off, then it's very flat. Because right now, like, it depends on the casing quality. Sometimes you fuss with it a little bit, it started to fuzz, and then it wouldn't look good if that's our finished product. What we want to do is we leave a little. When it's done, we cut it, we do the bar tack. After the bar tack's done, we cut it off, and that's finished. Because with the underwire casing, you can't really fold it. Once you fold it, some people are like, oh, why can we fold it? I want it very clean. But you see how thick that is? It's not comfortable on the body. So when we make a bra, it's so important to consider the construction so that it's thin as possible, but also look really nice when it's finished. Remember now, the foot that she's using is a special foot, and I can discuss that in a little bit. Yeah. Okay. So she's overlapping the underwire about 1/4. And then we have to flip the wing back. So the wing is on the, when we flip it back, the wing is on the outside. Half an inch. So now both sides are sewn the first step, which is the casing on, and then now we flip the casing, and that's what we want the finished result to be. And we do another stitch. So when we're flipping it through, we have to, because this is a mesh, you have to make sure inside is not dusty, thread stuck inside, so it's very clean. And when we do the other side, we also sew it from this side, but when it's flat on the table, we have to kind of make sure it's flat, because when it's flat, it turns out on this side perfectly. When we do the top stitching, it's better to do the mesh up, because she can control a little bit more of how flat it will look. Yeah, so she's going to do it that way.
She can see it better, right?
Yeah, she can see it better.
Yeah. 要用这个高低的。
对，我要跟他说，我等一下做完了，擦开那个盒给他们看。Okay, so she's doing the top stitching right now. So the top stitching is required by this client, but some clients don't require the top stitching. So we do a top stitching so that you see there's a stitching here. But you can choose not to do a top stitching, because then it will look a little more clean and one stitching here. So you see this elastic is going in here. We try to keep it clean as possible, the way we trim it. But it's very hard. You might want to, can we do it until the edge? It's very difficult. But because after the bra is finished, and it doesn't look bad at all. when you wear it. So, we never really have a problem with, and this is more of a higher end product. After we sew both sides, it will look really good. It's all in place. We insert the casing. So this is a 34C casing. I think this is the 哪一边是前面？就是okay. The pink, usually the color is the front and then the back. So we'll insert this into it. So you kind of have to find the opening. Once you find the opening, you just push it through. And the spacing that we allow, it actually gives enough spacing for the underwire to fit through. So you need to maneuver a little bit. One thing important to pay attention to is that when the underwire is inserted, there should be a seam allowance about 3/8 from the top of the wire, right? It's hard, right? To the edge. And then same on this side, about 1/4 at least to 3/8, because when we do the ball tack, the needle won't hit the wire. On here, this side, when we do the elastic over it later on like this, we'll have to kind of push this to the other end and just kind of do the elastic and then kind of maneuver it so it sits at the right place. So the needles won't hit the, so these are kind of stuff we're looking for. And also, when it's done with the, elastic right here, let's say, right? When it's finished, it will look like this, right? Your wire should sit kind of right underneath the edge up here, and this should sit under the edge right here. What you don't want is if your channel is too long, and when your bra is finished, I'm just pushing out this side, but it has this flimsy part because then it won't fit nice on the body. So yes, so this is how it looks. Right now, I think it looks pretty good. Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah. It looks easy to do, but it does take some practice. So now, I want to show you the foot that we're using. 帮我拿这个出来. So the foot that we're using is called the edge stitch. It's not a regular foot. It actually has a step, you see? It has a step right here. So and the needle goes in through right here. So there's 1/16 between the needle and the edge of the casing. So that's why we always get a perfect 1/16, because when this is going through, you see how it's like a step. This is always going to go along. The lower step is always going to go along the edge. And that's how we always able to control where the stitching is. It's always a 16 from the edge. Yeah, so this is a really important foot to have if you do any type of top edge stitching. And pin tucks and everything use this foot too. Yeah, so this is very handy to have.